For 6 years, the most important chip in your computer hardly changed. Not because it couldn't, because it didn't have to. Intel had no real competition, so the best desktop CPU you could buy stayed almost exactly the same. 4 cores, around $300. Year after year. This is what a monopoly looks like, drawn to scale. And this is the war that finally broke it. It starts in 2011 with this chip. The Core i7-2600K. $317. 4 cores. It was genuinely great, fast, overclockable. The kind of CPU people kept for the better part of a decade. But that is exactly the problem. When your chip is good enough to last 10 years and nobody can challenge you, why would you rush to build something better? So Intel didn't. Watch the next 6 years. Ivy Bridge, Haswell, Devil's Canyon, Skylake, Kaby Lake, 5 new generations. The names change, the chips get a little faster, but the shape never moves. Still 4 cores, still around $300. A flat blue line year after year. This wasn't Intel failing, this was Intel comfortable. Then, in 2017, the line breaks. This is AMD. 3 years earlier, AMD was nearly dead. Stock under $2, a step from bankruptcy. A new CEO, Lisa Su, bet the entire company on one new design called Zen. This is what that bet looked like on launch day. The Ryzen 7 1800X, 8 cores on a normal desktop socket for $499. Overnight, Intel's 4-core ceiling looked ridiculous. And here is the part that should sting for Intel. This wasn't about money. The year Ryzen launched, Intel spent over $13 billion on research and development. AMD spent barely $1. Intel outspent its rival more than 10 to 1 and still got caught. Because while Intel sat on its lead, its next factory broke. Its jump to a smaller manufacturing process slipped a year, then another, stuck in place for half a decade. The giant had gotten slow. The underdog had bet everything, and the gap started to close. Intel's response was fast, and it gave the game away. Just months after Ryzen, the Core i7-8700K finally moved past 4 cores. To 6, Intel could move when it had to. It simply hadn't had to in years. Then AMD did something even sharper. The Ryzen 7 2700X 8 cores at $329. That is the old Intel 4-core price, with twice the cores. This is the moment the chart says the quiet part out loud. Intel's old lineup was never physics, it was a choice, and you had been paying for it. So Intel pushed back to the top. The Core i9-9900K brought 8 cores to the mainstream, matching AMD's count, but look at the price, $488. The quiet $300 flagship was gone for good. The war had dragged the whole board upward. And AMD just kept climbing. The Ryzen 9 3900X 12 cores. Then the 3950X 16 cores on a normal desktop socket. A few years earlier, that would have meant a workstation and a much bigger bill. The red line is rocketing up the chart now, dragging the whole idea of a mainstream CPU up with it. By 2020, AMD had earned something it hadn't had in years, the right to charge. The Ryzen 9 5950X, 16 cores, $800. This is the top of the red line. And the clearest sign the war had flipped. AMD wasn't the cheap option anymore. It was the one setting the ceiling. Intel's low point is right here, 2021. The Core i9-11900K. After years of adding cores, Intel's flagship went backwards, back to 8, and charged more for it. On a chart about cores, you can watch the blue line flinch. So Intel changed the rules. The Core i9-12900K mixed 2 kinds of cores, a few big performance cores plus a cluster of small, efficient ones. On paper, the core count shot up. But now, nobody could even agree on what a core was anymore. The clean number that started this whole fight had stopped being clean. Meanwhile, AMD, holding the lead, did the surprising thing. It brought the price back down. The Ryzen 9 7950X, then the 9950X, still 16 real cores, but cheaper than the 5950X peak. That is what competition actually did. The same company that set the ceiling was now lowering it, because for the first time in a decade, it had to. And there is one last twist sitting just off the main line. These red dots are AMD's X3D chips. Not the most cores, not the most expensive, but with a giant stack of cash that made them the best gaming CPUs you could buy, so the flagship finally split in 2. The most cores up here, the best gaming chip down there. Step back, and the whole war is one picture, 6 years under a monopoly. A flat blue line, 4 cores, going nowhere. Then one desperate bet. And 5 years of red and blue clawing at each other, cores multiplying, prices spiking, then settling. Competition did, in 5 years, what a monopoly wouldn't do in 10. That is the story of your CPU, all of it on one timeline.